If you ever see a cemetery appear through fog where no cemetery should exist, don't stop the car, don't read the names on the grave, and whatever you do, don't look for your own tombstone, because 7 years ago I drove through a graveyard that vanished by sunrise. And I still don't know if I ever truly escaped it. This is Tales of the Dark, and this is the story of the cemetery that appeared only in fog. My name is Adrian Wells. And in November of 2019, I was driving through northern Pennsylvania after attending my younger brother's funeral. The weather forecast predicted heavy fog later that night. I didn't care. I just wanted to get home. My brother Ethan had died 3 days earlier in what police called a hiking accident. But nothing about his death made sense. They found his body 30 miles from the trail. No injuries, no signs of attack. Just frozen solid beneath a pine tree with a terrified expression on his face. At the funeral, his coffin stayed closed. Nobody explained why. I remember leaving the church around 11 p.m. Rain drizzled lightly across empty roads while thick fog slowly swallowed the highway ahead. The deeper I drove into the mountains, the worse visibility became. Eventually, I could barely see beyond my headlights. Then my GPS lost signal. At first I thought nothing of it. Mountain roads did that sometimes. But 10 minutes later my phone shut off completely. Battery drained from 60% to dead instantly. That was the first moment I felt something was wrong. The second came when I passed the same gas station twice. Same broken sign, same flickering light, same red pickup truck parked outside. I checked the road carefully. There were no turns, no intersections, but somehow I kept circling back. That's when the fog changed. It became thicker than anything I'd ever seen, not natural fog. This looked almost solid. Dense grey walls moving slowly between trees. My headlights barely penetrated it. Then suddenly I saw iron gates appear ahead, an enormous cemetery stretching endlessly through the fog. I slammed the brakes instinctively. The gates looked ancient, black iron covered in rust. Above them hung a weathered sign that read, St. Mercy Cemetery. I frowned immediately. I grew up in those mountains. There was no cemetery anywhere near that highway, especially not one that large. Fog drifted silently between rows of gravestones, disappearing into darkness beyond my headlights. Something about the place felt wrong instantly. Too quiet, no wind. No insects, no distant traffic, just silence. Then I noticed lights deeper inside the cemetery. Lanterns, small orange lanterns floating through the fog, moving slowly between grave. At first I thought they were people, until one of the lights rose nearly 8 feet into the air, then vanished. My chest tightened immediately. I should have driven away, but something pulled at me, not physically, emotionally, like the cemetery wanted me to enter. And before I realized what I was doing, I stepped out of the car. Cold air hit me instantly. The fog smelled strange. Wet earth mixed with flowers, funeral flowers. I walked slowly toward the gate, unable to explain why my body felt heavier with every step. Then I noticed the grave, thousands of them. Old stone markers covered in moss stretching endlessly through fog. Some looked centuries old, others looked freshly dug. And every grave had the same symbol carved into it, a circle with a line through the center. I'd never seen it before. Then suddenly I heard whispering, soft voices drifting through the fog around me, not clear enough to understand, just murmuring, like dozens of people speaking quietly underground. I turned around quickly. Nothing. The cemetery remained completely empty. Then came another sound, a shovel hitting dirt. Clang somewhere deeper in the fog, then again. Clang, slow, rhythmic. Someone was digging. My pulse started rising. I called out nervously, "Hello?" The digging stopped instantly. Silence returned. Then, very slowly, I saw a silhouette emerge between grave ahead. Tall, thin, holding a lantern. The figure walked unnaturally slowly through the fog toward me. At first I thought it was a groundskeeper, until the lantern light illuminated its face. No eyes. Just smooth, pale skin stretched where the eyes should have been. I stumbled backward in horror. The figure stopped moving immediately, then tilted its head slightly toward me like it was listening. My entire body locked in fear. and behind me more lantern lights began appearing through the fog. Dozens of them, moving silently between graves, surrounding me. That's when I noticed something even worse. The gravestones nearby had names on them I recognized. People from my hometown, my old teacher, a grocery clerk, my cousin Daniel, all dead, but their death dates were wrong. Every date was from the future, years ahead, some decades. Cold panic spread through my chest instantly. Then I saw another grave directly beside me, and my blood turned to ice because carved into the stone was my brother's name, Ethanwells, date of death, November 14th, 2019. Below the date, someone had carved a message into the stone. He saw the fog. Suddenly, all the lantern lights stopped moving. The whispering beneath the ground grew louder, and somewhere deeper in the cemetery, something enormous moved beneath the fog, not footsteps, something dragging slowly underground. The eyeless figure raised its lantern slightly toward me, then pointed deeper into the cemetery, toward a single grave standing alone in the distance, a fresh grave with no fog around it, and even from far away I could read the name carved into the stone, Adrian Wells, my name. My legs nearly gave out beneath me. Then the figure whispered something softly, a voice like dry leaves scraping together. You arrived early. Adrian's entire body froze the moment the figure spoke. You arrived early. The voice didn't sound human, it sounded ancient. Like something buried underground trying to imitate speech. The eyeless figure slowly lowered its lantern while thick fog drifted around the fresh grave bearing Adrian's name. His mind refused to process what he was seeing, because beneath his name, there was already a death date carved into the stone. November 18th, 2019, 3 days away. Cold panic surged through his chest instantly. No, Adrian whispered. The figure tilted its head again, then all around the cemetery, the whispering beneath the earth grew louder. Hundreds of voices, maybe thousands. Murmuring beneath the grave like something alive was buried underneath the entire cemetery. Adrian stumbled backward away from the grave. That's when the fog behind him began moving, not drifting, breathing. Huge waves slowly rolling through the cemetery toward him, and inside the fog shapes moved, human shapes. Dozens of them walking silently between graves carrying lanterns. The eyeless figure stepped aside slowly, almost inviting him forward, toward his own grave. Then suddenly something grabbed Adrian's ankle from beneath the ground. A rotten hand burst through wet soil beside the grave and wrapped around his leg violently. Adrian screamed and kicked backward desperately. The hand released him, immediately sinking back underground. But now the earth around nearby graves started moving too, soil trembling, headstones shaking, like something beneath the cemetery was waking up. Adrian turned and ran. Fog swallowed everything instantly as he sprinted between graves blindly. The lantern lights followed behind him silently. No footsteps, no breathing, just glowing orange lights drifting through the fog. Then came the sound again. Clang, a shovel hitting dirt somewhere nearby. Clang, clang, closer now. Adrian pushed deeper through the cemetery trying to find the gate, but the fog distorted everything around him. Rows of graves stretched endlessly in every direction. No entrance, no road, no escape. Then he saw something horrifying through the mist ahead. People standing silently beside graves. At first Adrian thought they were statues, until one of them moved. His stomach dropped immediately. They were the dead, pale figures dressed in burial clothing standing motionless throughout the cemetery. Some looked freshly buried, others looked decades old. Sunken skin, dark hollow eyes, rotting mouths hanging partially open. And every single one of them stared directly at him. Adrian backed away slowly, trying not to scream. Then he recognized one of the faces, his brother. Ethan stood among them wearing the same black suit from the funeral. His skin looked pale gray beneath the lantern light. Mud covered his hands, and his terrified eyes locked onto Adrian immediately. Ethan, the dead figure, slowly raised one shaking hand toward him, not threatening, warning him. Then suddenly all the corpses around him turned their heads upward simultaneously, like they heard something approaching. The ground beneath Adrian vibrated softly. And somewhere deep beneath the cemetery, something massive moved underground. The dead began whispering together instantly. "Don't let it see you, don't let it find you, don't breathe." Adrian's heart pounded violently. Then the fog above the cemetery started rising, slowly revealing something enormous moving beneath it, a shape far too large to be human. The lantern lights immediately went dark one by one, and the dead figures around Adrian dropped to their knees in terror, even Ethan. That's when Adrian finally saw the thing beneath the fog, a gigantic pale face slowly emerging from the darkness underground. Not fully human, just features, massive closed eyes, sunken skin, an impossibly huge mouth stretching beneath the cemetery itself. The entire graveyard wasn't built on land. It was built on top of something sleeping beneath the earth, something ancient, something alive, and the fog was its breath. Adrian nearly collapsed from fear. Then suddenly the creature's enormous eyes opened beneath the cemetery. Thousands of graves cracked simultaneously. The dead around Adrian began screaming, not loudly, weak, desperate screams like trapped people underwater, and every lantern in the cemetery reignited instantly. Orange light flooded the fog while the gigantic thing beneath the earth slowly smiled. Then all the dead turned toward Adrian together, including Ethan. Their mouths opened unnaturally wide, and in perfect unison they whispered, "It knows your name." The ground exploded beneath Adrian's feet. He fell sideways as massive cracks split through the cemetery soil. Hands burst upward from underground, grabbing blindly through the fog. Dozens of corpses clawed their way from graves surrounding him. Adrian ran harder than he ever had in his life. The fog screamed around him, not wind, actual screaming. Thousands of voices crying beneath the mist. Then finally he saw headlights. His car, barely visible near the cemetery gates. Adrian sprinted toward it while rotten hands reached from the soil around him. The giant thing beneath the cemetery continued moving. The earth rose and fell like breathing lungs. And behind him he heard Ethan's voice one final time. "Don't let the fog follow you." Adrian threw himself into the driver's seat, slamming the door behind him. The engine started instantly. He didn't look back. He slammed the accelerator and drove blindly through the fog-covered highway while screams echoed behind him from the cemetery. Then suddenly the fog vanished, completely. The road ahead became clear, normal, silent, no cemetery, no gates, nothing. Adrian stopped the car, shaking violently. Behind him stretched only empty highway disappearing into darkness. The cemetery was gone. Police later searched the area after Adrian reported everything. They found no cemetery anywhere near the mountains, no St. Mercy Cemetery, no gates, no records, nothing. But 3 days later, Adrian received something horrifying in the mail. An old photograph with no return address. The image showed St. Mercy Cemetery covered in fog, and standing beside Adrian's grave was Ethan. Behind him, thousands of pale faces stared from the fog, watching, waiting, and scratched across the bottom of the photograph were 6 words written in dirt-covered handwriting. The fog always comes back. If you are brave enough to hear more nightmares, subscribe to Tales of the Dark. And if you have your own terrifying experience, leave it in the comments or send your story by email. Maybe your nightmare will become the next story told here.